I was the sole heir of the most powerful underworld family. My great-grandfather was one of the biggest arms dealers in the Middle East. My grandfather was a legendary underworld kingpin whose name was feared everywhere. As for my parents, they were the uncrowned rulers who controlled the underground order of the entire city. Naturally, the whole family placed all their hopes on me, the young master and future heir. But unfortunately for them, I was a complete bookworm. I spent every single day holding books in my hands, and once I started reading, I would continue for the entire day. One day, I stood before my family and solemnly announced that I had decided to focus completely on my studies so that I could get into Tsinghua or Peking University. The moment my father heard this, he silently pulled the 7 Wolves leather belt from around his waist. He glared at me and shouted, "You little brat, our family has 700 hotels waiting for you to inherit. What use will any of that stuff you are studying have? You are seriously driving me to death. Today, I am going to beat you until your entire face blooms like a flower." Seeing him raise the belt, I could only let out a helpless sigh. It was not as though I did not want to become a carefree, spoiled rich heir who spent every day enjoying life. But would that damned system ever allow me to live that way? That was right. I had been reborn once again. In this life, I had become the heir of the famous and extremely powerful Liu family. When I was born, the people in the room excitedly shouted, "Look, it is a boy." Someone quickly called my father over. "Old Liu, come and look." At that time, I had already started planning how I would spend this life enjoying wealth, luxury, and complete freedom. However, just as I was imagining my carefree future, a clear notification sound suddenly rang inside my mind. The system informed me, as long as the host devotes himself to studying and promotes positive values, the host will not only receive all kinds of generous rewards, but will also be able to extend his lifespan. The moment I heard that, I nearly laughed out loud. With a family background like mine, why would I need to study? In this life, I was determined to become a pampered young prince who spent his days traveling around the city and enjoying every luxury bathhouse and entertainment center I could find. I immediately cursed the system inside my mind. Useless system, hurry up and get lost. I refuse to study. Let me see what you can possibly do to me. In the very next second, a countdown window appeared directly in front of my eyes. Remaining lifespan, 5 minutes and 23 seconds. At the same time, I was lying unconscious inside the bedroom of the family villa. My heartbeat suddenly began slowing down at a terrifying speed. The medical monitoring equipment beside my bed released a sharp and piercing alarm. More than a dozen top medical experts standing inside the room instantly turned deathly pale. My father, Liu Batian, the current head of the Liu family, completely lost his temper. He roared at the doctors, "Save my son. You had better save him. If he dies, I will throw every single one of you into Africa." My mother was leaning over the side of my bed. Her face was filled with fear, anxiety, and panic. A moment later, one of the doctors slowly stepped forward while trembling from head to toe. His voice was filled with despair as he said, "Young Master Liu probably will not survive tonight." The moment those words left his mouth, tears immediately began pouring down my mother's face. She tightly held my hand and cried, "My son, please do not leave your mother. From now on, I will never stop you from playing Genshin Impact again." Just as she finished speaking, the flat line on the heartbeat monitor suddenly moved. My heart, which had almost completely stopped, miraculously started beating again. A second later, I, who had been lying there on the verge of death, suddenly sat upright on the bed. There was nothing else I could do. In the end, I had no choice but to lower my head before the system. A real man knew when to stand tall and when to temporarily give in. For now, studying properly and earning myself a few hundred years of lifespan was clearly the most important thing. My sudden revival frightened every single person inside the room. I slowly turned my head and looked at my mother, whose face was still completely covered in tears. Looking at my mother's tear-covered face, I made her a solemn promise. "Mom, do not worry. From now on, I will study as hard as I can and become an outstanding model student. In the future, I will definitely repay you and Dad properly." The moment she heard those words, my crying mother suddenly froze. She reached out and touched my forehead. Then, instead of feeling relieved, she began crying even harder. "It is over. It is completely over. Our son has really become an idiot. He is actually saying something as ridiculous as wanting to study hard." My father quickly tried to comfort her. "Do not worry, honey. Even if I have to search through every corner of the world and invite every famous doctor alive, I will definitely cure our son's brain." Hearing that, I immediately performed a Thomas-style spinning flip, jumped off the bed, and landed firmly on the floor. I walked over to my parents and looked at them with an extremely serious expression. "Mom, I was immature in the past. I spent every day fooling around, refused to do anything anything productive, and constantly caused trouble for both of you. But this time, I am completely serious. I will study properly and get admitted to Tsinghua or Peking University. My father, Lu Batian, carefully studied my expression. When he realized that I did not seem to be joking, he felt incredibly relieved and pleased. Then he reached behind his waist and pulled out the 7 Wolves leather belt once again. You little brat, just try studying seriously and see what happens. Do you believe I will immediately flatten your entire school? If it were not for helping you marry the young lady of the Bai family, do you really think I would allow you to go to a miserable place like school and suffer? Before he could even finish speaking, the belt came raining down on me without mercy. Dad, I understand. I understand everything now. I repeatedly nodded like I was pounding garlic while desperately shouting that I understood. Only after seeing me completely submit did my father finally put the belt away. Covered in dust and looking completely miserable, I quietly slipped back into my bedroom. The moment I opened my phone, the screen was filled with unread messages. Every single message had been sent by the same person. By Ruoshue. The messages read, Lu Chen, the moment I see you, I feel disgusted. You are an ignorant, useless, spoiled rich brat, yet you still dream of forming a marriage alliance with my family. That is the biggest joke in the world. Do not ever ask me out again. I never want to see you again. I searched through the original Lu Chen's memories and finally remembered that Bai Ruoshue was not an ordinary girl. Although she currently attended school in Yunhai City, her family's power was deeply rooted throughout the capital. Their influence was enormous, and their connections spread everywhere. That was exactly why my father considered marrying Bai Ruoshue to be my most important mission at the moment. Unfortunately, the original owner of this body was also a complete lunatic. To accomplish that mission, he once brought an entire group of his underlings and blocked the entrance of Bai Ruoshue's school. He deliberately waited until classes ended, when the largest number of students were gathered outside, and publicly presented her with flowers. As though that was not embarrassing enough, he later forced his way into the school's broadcasting room. Then, in front of every teacher and student in the school, he gave Bai Ruoshue an emotional confession that continued for an entire hour. For Bai Ruoshue, who had been born into an extremely powerful and prestigious family, that incident was nothing less than a tremendous humiliation. Forget about developing any affection toward Lu Chen. At this point, she probably felt that even spitting in my direction would dirty her saliva. I helplessly shook my head and directly switched off my phone. I had already crossed into another world and been reborn. Who would still care about becoming her pathetic bootlicker? The most important thing right now was accumulating enough lifespan to stay alive. However, something completely unexpected happened. My parents were obviously strongly opposed to me studying, yet every shelf inside my bedroom was completely filled with books. Curious, I casually pulled out a few of them and flipped through their pages. The moment I saw their titles, I was completely dumbfounded. 18 Techniques for Picking Up Girls. How to Avoid Striking a Fatal Area While Cutting Someone Down. 10 Secret Methods for Improving a Man's Charm and Abilities. What kind of high school student was supposed to read books like these? I refused to give up and continued searching through the shelves for a long time. Eventually, I finally discovered a book titled Dragon Kingdom Martial Arts. I held it in my hands as though I had just discovered a priceless treasure. I eagerly rubbed my fingers together and immediately began reading it. At that exact moment, the system's notification suddenly sounded. Detected that the host is currently reading Dragon Kingdom Martial Arts. Lifespan increased by 1 minute. Lifespan increased by 1 minute. Martial arts proficiency increased by 1 point. So that was how it worked. Reading certain special books did not only increase my lifespan, it could also grant me the corresponding knowledge and abilities contained inside those books. After realizing this, I immediately turned my gaze toward the book titled 10 Secret Methods for Improving a Man's Abilities. A meaningful smile slowly appeared on my face. The moment I opened its first page, the system notification sounded again. Detected that the host is currently reading 10 Secret Methods for Improving a Man's Abilities. How shameless. I could not help cursing at the system. Damn it, you are the shameless one. After that, I continued reading without stopping until 10 o'clock that night. Not only had my martial arts proficiency rapidly increased to level 4, but my remaining lifespan had also reached 5 days and 6 hours. Even the so-called abilities of a man had improved at an astonishing speed. This feeling was simply incredible. The next morning, I woke up inside my bedroom, which was several hundred square meters in size. The moment I opened my eyes, dozens of servants immediately surrounded me. Some helped me get dressed, some washed my face, while others personally fed me breakfast. They provided an entire chain of services and took care of every tiny detail for me. Once everything was ready, several servants escorted me outside and helped me into a Rolls-Royce. Before I left, one of the servants leaned closer and quietly reminded me, "Young master, when you reach school, please remember the master's instructions. You must never listen seriously during class, and you definitely must not think about studying hard. Your most important task right now is to start dating. No matter what happens, you must successfully win Miss Bai's heart." 10 minutes later, the Rolls-Royce slowly came to a stop outside the entrance of Yunhai City's 13th middle school. This school was known throughout Yunhai City as a complete disaster. Not only were its teachers and educational resources extremely poor, but the atmosphere on campus was also unbelievably terrible. Young delinquents could be seen everywhere. Even the teachers and the principal usually turned a blind eye to everything happening around them. The school was so notorious that its rate of students causing trouble was probably even higher than its college admission rate. Some people might wonder why a wealthy and powerful young master like me would study in such a terrible school. The reason was extremely simple. My father, Lu Batian, had personally arranged it. He wanted me to struggle and survive in this harsh environment so that I could eventually become a ruthless and powerful man just like him. Then why was Bai Ruoxue, the precious daughter of an influential family, also studying here? The answer was almost exactly the same. It had been arranged by the old master of the Bai family. However, unlike me, Bai Ruoxue had been placed in the best class in the entire school. After stepping out of the car, I had barely reached the school entrance when a group of delinquents with hair dyed in every possible color suddenly rushed over and surrounded me. "Young master, you are finally back. We were all worried to death about you." "That is right, Brother Lu. We are so relieved that you are fine. Last night, we were even discussing whether we should go and look for you." I looked over the group standing in front of me. According to the original owner's memories, all of them were underlings I had recruited at school. I impatiently waved my hand and ordered them to leave. After dismissing everyone, I walked directly toward the classroom of Class 8. The moment I entered, I sat down in my usual seat and pulled every book out of my desk drawer. I would never have discovered it without looking. More than half of the semester had already passed, yet every single textbook still looked completely brand new. When I saw the untouched books covering my desk, my eyes immediately lit up. These were not ordinary textbooks. They were precious treasures that could help me accumulate lifespan. I quickly opened my mathematics textbook, preparing to dive into the ocean of knowledge and study with everything I had. However, at that moment, a figure suddenly appeared at the classroom entrance. Her arrival instantly attracted the attention of every boy in the class. I raised my head and looked over. A young girl with smooth, flawless skin and long hair draped over her shoulders was standing at the doorway. She had an extremely attractive figure, and her elegant temperament was equally outstanding. Her beautiful eyes were currently staring directly at me. She spoke in an icy voice. "Lu Chen, what exactly are you trying to do? You clearly woke up, so why did you not reply to any of my messages? Do you have any idea what it feels like when someone gives you hope first and then immediately pushes you into despair? I thought you might never wake up again. I am telling you, Lu Chen, even if I remain unmarried for my entire life, I will never marry someone like you." Bai Ruoxue said everything in one breath. However, after finishing her long speech, she suddenly realized that I had not reacted to her at all. I was still sitting at my desk with my head lowered, completely focused on reading my book. She angrily called out, "Hey, are you even listening to what I am saying?" I calmly looked up at her. "Are you finished? If you are done, hurry up and move aside. Do not interfere with my studies." "Fine. Very well, Lu Chen. In the past, you would arrive outside my classroom every morning before the morning reading session even began. You blocked my way every day. No matter where I went, you followed me like a shadow, and I could never get rid of you. Are you now trying to use some childish trick where you pretend to ignore me so that I will become interested in you?" Today was the first time in 3 years that Bai Ruoxue had voluntarily come looking for me. She never expected that she would receive such a cold response. From her perspective, I was clearly using the old trick of deliberately distancing myself in order to attract her attention. Unfortunately for me, Bai Ruoxue believed she would never fall for something so obvious. "Lu Chen, I hope you can continue maintaining this attitude. Goodbye." She stopped for a moment and corrected herself. "No, I hope we never meet again." After saying that, Bai Ruoxue angrily turned around and walked away. However, I felt absolutely nothing. I lowered my head and continued working through my mathematics textbook. When the other boys in the classroom witnessed what had happened, the entire class immediately erupted into whispered discussion. "I already told you that Brother Lu was only pursuing Bai Ruoxue for entertainment. He is the only son of the great Lu family. How could someone like him willingly become a pathetic bootlicker? Still, the way Brother Lu is flipping through that textbook actually looks pretty convincing. He almost looks like he is seriously studying. What nonsense are you talking about? Brother Lu's acting skills are more than enough to completely crush those young celebrity actors. After reaching the stairway, Bai Ruoshua casually pretended to turn her head and look behind her. She expected me to chase after her as usual. However, she discovered that I had not followed her at all. This caused a trace of doubt to appear in her mind. Could it be that he is not playing hard to get? Does he genuinely want to draw a clear line between us? Bai Ruoshua tightly clenched her small fist. She silently thought about the situation before comforting herself. This is probably better anyway. Without that bastard constantly harassing me, I can finally concentrate peacefully on my studies. With that thought, she stopped looking back and disappeared around the stairway. Not long after Bai Ruoshua left, a female teacher carrying a mathematics textbook walked into the classroom. She had an incredibly attractive figure, and her appearance was so beautiful that it was almost impossible to describe. The male students and even several male teachers nearby instantly stared at her with wide eyes. Ignoring all of their heated gazes, the female teacher walked directly to the front of the classroom. Her voice was clear and pleasant as she introduced herself. "Hello, students. I am your new homeroom teacher, Lin Yu." The class immediately erupted in excitement. Lin Yu continued, "There are only 3 months remaining before the National College Entrance Examination. I will be accompanying everyone throughout the remaining 3 months." Cheers and excited voices continued rising from the students below. However, Lin Yu showed no expression. Her gaze remained fixed on me, the only student in the entire classroom who appeared to be reading seriously. There was no need to misunderstand the situation. She was not moved by my hardworking appearance. The real reason she was staring at me was because she had accepted an extremely sacred and difficult mission. Lin Yu held a doctoral degree from the Dragon Kingdom Police University. Immediately after graduation, she had entered the Capital Police Headquarters. The first mission assigned to her was to completely destroy the Lu Group, an underworld family that had existed for more than 100 years. Unfortunately, the Lu family's roots were extremely deep. Our influence extended throughout both the government and the business world. Although the family had originally risen through the underworld, we had completely cleaned and legalized our public identity. The investigation team had secretly investigated the Lu family for an entire year. Despite their efforts, they had failed to uncover even a single piece of concrete evidence. With no other option available, they were forced to search for a different path. Eventually, they decided to use me, the heir of the Lu family, as their breakthrough point. According to their intelligence, the young master of the underworld family committed every possible bad deed at school. I was supposedly arrogant, domineering, unreasonable, and a completely useless spoiled heir who only knew how to waste money. That was precisely why Lin Yu had personally volunteered to become the homeroom teacher of my class. She planned to discover an opening through me and use it to completely destroy the Lu family from its foundation. However, as she watched me reading with my head lowered, Lin Yu became increasingly confused. She had already been standing at the front of the classroom for a long time, yet I had not raised my head even once. I almost seemed desperate to bury my entire face inside the textbook. No matter how she looked at me, I did not resemble a lazy and useless spoiled heir who spent every day waiting for death. Could the organization's intelligence have been wrong? Just as this question appeared in her mind, I suddenly raised my hand. I violently threw the textbook onto the ground. Then I began stomping on it with all my strength while angrily cursing. So that is where the problem was. A moment earlier, the system had suddenly informed me that I first needed to shout Genshin Impact, launch, inside my mind. Only after doing that would the system's reward mechanism become activated, allowing me to receive benefits while reading. I became furious the moment I learned the truth. Damned system, why did you not tell me something this important earlier? I only have a few days left to live. Did you seriously make me waste all that valuable time for nothing? And you want me to shout Genshin Impact, launch? Screw that. The moment Lin Yu saw me throwing the textbook onto the ground and violently stepping on it, all the confusion inside her mind disappeared. She silently sneered. So he was only pretending. His acting was certainly convincing. As expected, he is still the same ignorant and useless spoiled young master described in the intelligence report. Lin Yu cleared her throat, and her expression instantly became serious. Everyone, remain quiet. Do not make so much noise. It has already been almost a full minute since I entered this classroom, yet none of you have stopped talking. If you continue causing trouble, do not blame me for becoming harsh. The moment she finished speaking, the entire classroom fell completely silent. It became so quiet that even the sound of a needle falling onto the floor could have been heard clearly. The male students stared at Lin Yu in fear. Only a second earlier, she had appeared gentle, friendly, and approachable. Now, however, she looked so fierce that no one dared to make another sound. When Lin Yu saw the previously rebellious students sitting silently in fear, she felt secretly pleased with herself. This was the infamous 13th middle school. Being able to control such a troublesome group of students gave her an unprecedented sense of accomplishment. Unfortunately, the silence did not last very long. Soon, the previously quiet classroom exploded with noise once again. Teacher Lin, your personality is really fiery. I think I like you even more now. Teacher Lin, I heard that the more irritable someone is, the more suppressed emotions they have inside. Is that true? Teacher, I want to study biology with you personally. What kind of students were these? After hearing one ridiculous question after another, Lin Yu was completely dumbfounded. Under normal circumstances, she would have already smashed her elbow into someone's face. But right now, she was supposed to be a homeroom teacher responsible for educating and guiding students. More importantly, she had come here carrying the important mission of destroying the Lu family. Thinking about that, Lin Yu took a deep breath and desperately tried to suppress the anger rising inside her. She repeatedly reminded herself that she had to endure. A moment of impatience could ruin the entire plan. Unfortunately, the next few comments from the students completely shattered her self-control. Look at her face. She always looks like the entire world owes her money. Does she seriously think she is the principal? She keeps standing there with that arrogant expression, just like a robot that has not even been switched on. Lin Yu stood behind the podium, so furious that smoke almost seemed to be rising from the top of her head. In the next second, she suddenly raised her right hand. She formed her palm like a blade and violently chopped the solid wooden desk in front of her. A thunderous sound echoed through the classroom. The heavy wooden desk was directly split into two pieces. The sudden display of strength instantly silenced the noisy classroom once again. At that moment, one student slowly stood up while trembling. He spoke in a quiet and concerned voice. Teacher, damaging public property is against the law. If the principal discovers what you have done, he will definitely punish you. He might even hit your palm with a ruler. At the very least, you will probably be forced to clean the school for an entire month. I sincerely hope you can remain strong and avoid exhausting yourself. The moment the student finished speaking, the entire class burst into uncontrollable laughter. Lin Yu looked at the group of students and completely lost her composure. What kind of monsters were these people? They openly mocked their teacher, showed absolutely no respect for authority, and could produce endless nonsense without even changing their expressions. Their level of absurdity had already reached its absolute limit. Just as Lin Yu stood there without knowing how to control the situation, a powerful voice suddenly echoed through the classroom. All of you, shut up. The previously chaotic classroom instantly became completely silent. The students who had been laughing so hard that they were leaning over their desks immediately lowered their heads. Every one of them suddenly became as obedient as a group of little sheep. Lin Yu was extremely surprised and quickly looked toward the source of the voice. I had suddenly risen from my seat. My eyes were as sharp as those of a tiger as I looked across the entire classroom. An invisible pressure seemed to spread from my body. This time, I was genuinely angry. Because I had failed to activate the system earlier, I had already wasted a large amount of precious time. I wanted to read as quickly as possible and accumulate enough lifespan to survive. However, these people had been shouting endlessly. After sitting there for so long, I had barely managed to read a single word. I glared at everyone and shouted, "Are all of you planning to rebel? The country spends an enormous amount of money every year to provide 9 years of compulsory education. You are allowed to attend school without paying tuition, yet this is how you choose to value that opportunity. You refuse to study, waste every day causing trouble, and recklessly consume the country's resources. Can you face the parents who worked so hard to raise you? I am making myself perfectly clear right now. If anyone dares to make noise again and interferes with another person's studies, do not blame me for becoming unpleasant." After finishing my speech, I sat back down in my seat. Then I lowered my head and continued immersing myself in the ocean of knowledge. In one corner of the classroom, several boys gathered together and quietly whispered among themselves. Did Brother Lu take the wrong medicine today? Was he not usually the person who led us whenever we caused trouble? Is that even a question? The new homeroom teacher is beautiful, so he is obviously pretending to behave well in order to impress her. He probably wants to win the teacher over. Keep your voices down and stop talking nonsense. If Brother Lu hears us, every one of us will be finished. Lin Yu remained behind the podium, repeatedly thinking about everything I had just said. She was completely stunned. My speech had been extremely impressive. What kind of ideological awareness did a person need to say something like that? Even among all the high school students in the country, how many could possess such a broad broad perspective and genuinely place the nation above themselves. However, I was supposed to be the only son of the underworld Lu family. I was also the future successor of the Lu group. A troubling possibility suddenly appeared in Lin Yu's mind. Could information about the mission have already been leaked? Were all of those words deliberately performed in front of me? That possibility could not be ignored. The Lu family had existed for more than 100 years, and its power was deeply rooted everywhere. It would not be surprising if members of the family had even infiltrated the capital police headquarters. After my warning, the students in the classroom became noticeably more obedient. No one dared to cause trouble again. At that moment, the system's notification suddenly sounded inside my mind. The host has successfully promoted positive behavior. A total of 50 people have been influenced. Reward: remaining lifespan increased by 5 hours. Additional reward: 1 mysterious gift package. My eyes immediately lit up. A mysterious gift package? So promoting positive values could also increase my lifespan. I immediately ordered the system, open the mysterious gift package. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a mysterious reward. 1 bottle of perfect potion. Without the slightest hesitation, I selected the option to use it. In the next second, a warm current instantly spread throughout my entire body. The heavy and uncomfortable feeling inside my lungs completely disappeared. Even the long-standing weakness in my kidneys was fully cured. My face had already been handsome, but after absorbing the potion, my appearance reached an entirely new level. The original owner of this body had spent years smoking and drinking heavily. Even though he was still young, he had already developed many minor health problems. Now, every one of those problems had completely disappeared. Even my overall temperament had improved by several levels. I could not help silently praising the reward. This thing is actually amazing. After finishing my thoughts, I lowered my head and continued working through my mathematics textbooks. It did not take long before I finished reading every mathematics book from the first year of high school to the 3rd year. My lifespan directly increased by more than 10 days. At the same time, my mathematics knowledge reached its maximum level. I looked at my personal status screen and smiled with satisfaction. Host's mathematics knowledge and ability have reached the maximum level. The host can now obtain a large amount of lifespan and mysterious rewards through the following methods. The moment I saw the words mysterious rewards, I immediately became interested. It was currently September. Although school had already ended for the day, the sky was still bright. Under the evening sunlight, I happily whistled while walking toward the school entrance. The moment I reached the gate, I noticed a girl standing nearby. She was wearing a short white skirt and had an innocent, delicate face. She held a pink school bag tightly against her chest while trembling in place. Several delinquents with hair dyed in different colors had surrounded her. Every one of them was staring at her with a disgusting expression. From time to time, they even whistled at her. Their behavior was unbelievably irritating. One of them smiled and said, "Come on, little beauty. Just agree to your brother's request. Come and watch a movie with me. As long as you agree, I guarantee that no one in 13th middle school will ever dare to bully you again." Did you hear that? Another delinquent quickly added, "Our big brother is being completely serious." That is right. Do not underestimate him just because he is only in the 1st year of high school. He has already accepted several ruthless 3rd-year students as his big brothers. Some of them are even close friends with the young master of the Lu family. If I were you, I would have already put on black stockings and gone on a date with our big brother. Another boy immediately objected. What is so good about black stockings? White stockings will always be the greatest. The girl tightly held her bag and quietly answered, "I do not have time." One of the delinquents immediately threatened her. "Do not make us angry. If you continue refusing, we will directly drag you into an alley." The girl became even more frightened. "I am sorry. I am really sorry. My mother is still lying in a hospital bed. I need to go to my part-time job and earn money. Please let me leave." The green-haired delinquent interrupted her. "That is enough. What part-time job are you talking about? You might as well come directly to your brother. I can still afford to give you a little money." Because I had remained at school reading until late, there were barely any people left near the entrance. That was exactly why these delinquents had become increasingly fearless. On the other side of the school gate, Lin Yu was sitting inside a Maserati. She had just finished work and was preparing to drive away. However, she happened to notice what was happening nearby. The group was not far from her, so she clearly heard every word of their conversation. Lin Yu immediately became furious. "What a group of uneducated bastards. I am definitely going to teach all of you a lesson today." She quickly replaced her shoes with a pair of flats. Then she opened the car door and prepared to step outside. However, just as she was about to leave the car, a voice suddenly came from nearby and caused her to stop. "Why not count me in?" When Lin Yu heard my voice, she immediately became excited. So Lu Chen has finally revealed his true nature. During the day, he pretended to be an outstanding model student. But the moment school ended, he immediately returned to his real personality. He is actually trying to join these people. Thinking that she had finally obtained evidence against me, Lin Yu immediately activated the camera on her phone. She pressed the record button and began filming everything happening in front of her. She planned to submit the recording to the investigation team as evidence of my involvement in campus bullying. The delinquents near the school gate turned around and glanced at me. Their eyes were filled with contempt. All of them were new first-year students. Although they had heard of Lu Chen's famous reputation, none of them had ever personally seen me. The green-haired boy sneered. "Where did this pretty boy come from? Hurry up and get lost. Do not interfere with my business." The moment the girl saw me, a small trace of hope appeared in her eyes. However, that hope quickly disappeared. She clearly understood the backgrounds of the delinquents surrounding her. Just as they had claimed, the green-haired boy had recognized several ruthless third-year students as his older brothers. He acted arrogantly throughout the school, and almost no one in the entire first year dared to provoke him. The girl did not want an innocent person to become involved and suffer because of her. She quickly tried to persuade me to leave. "Classmate, please go. This matter has nothing to do with you." The green-haired boy laughed arrogantly. "Did you hear that? My girlfriend is telling you to get lost." After saying that, the delinquents turned back toward the girl. They slowly surrounded her again with malicious expressions. At that exact moment, an empty drink can suddenly flew through the air. It followed a perfect arc and struck the green-haired delinquent directly on the head. He cried out in pain and immediately grabbed his injured head. This time, the delinquents became completely furious. "You refused the easy way, so now you are going to suffer. I am definitely going to beat you until your own father cannot recognize you." The moment he finished shouting, 3 delinquents charged toward me together like a group of mad dogs. Inside her car, Lin Yu continued secretly recording everything with her phone. When she saw what was happening, she immediately became confused. Something is wrong. Did Lu Chen not come here to join them? Why is he fighting against them instead? Her own student was currently being surrounded and attacked. As his homeroom teacher, Lin Yu could not decide whether she should immediately interfere. However, while she was still hesitating, she raised her head and looked toward the school entrance again. What she saw left her completely stunned. All 3 delinquents had already been knocked to the ground by me. They held different parts of their bodies and rolled across the pavement. Their screams sounded like pigs being slaughtered. One of them desperately shouted, "Call Brother Black Bear. Tell him to bring people here." Ignoring them, I calmly walked toward the frightened girl. I walked over to the girl and calmly said, "Classmate, let me take you home." She looked at me gratefully and stammered, "Thank you. Thank you so much. You are welcome." It was nothing. The girl and I had just turned around and were preparing to leave when the 3 delinquents on the ground struggled back to their feet. They quickly blocked our path. "Neither of you is allowed to leave. Stop right there. If you dare to walk away today, I will have someone throw this girl's disabled mother into a well." The moment I heard those words, I suddenly stopped walking. I turned around and looked at them with undisguised contempt. "Fine, I will give you permission to call for backup." When Lin Yu witnessed this from inside her car, she immediately became interested. Not bad. The heir of the Lu family has some courage after all. However, she had still secretly called the police. If the other side summoned more than a dozen people, Lu Chen might be beaten until he became disabled. When the girl saw me stop, panic appeared on her face. However, a moment later, she seemed to make an important decision. Instead of leaving me behind, she also stopped and stood firmly beside me. Her previously frightened eyes became incredibly determined. The green-haired delinquent sneered, "Stop pretending to be brave in front of me. Just wait. The 2 of you will pay the price soon." Not long afterward, dark clouds gradually covered the previously clear sky. At the same time, a huge crowd began approaching from the western side of the school. There were so many people that they formed a dense black mass, making it almost impossible to count them all. Sitting inside her car, Lin Yu made a rough estimate. At least 100 people had arrived. She silently felt relieved that she had already called the police. Otherwise, I would definitely receive a terrible beating today. The green-haired delinquent immediately became extremely excited. "Ha ha ha, my big brother is here. You are dead now." He and his 2 followers enthusiastically rushed toward the approaching crowd. "Brother Black Bear, you are finally here. That little bastard over there was the one who dared to attack us." The man leading the group was known as Black Bear. He was nearly 1 meter and 90 centimeters tall. He had broad shoulders, a powerful build, and dark skin. Chen. His enormous body perfectly matched his nickname. Black Bear spoke arrogantly. "Take me over there. I want to see which blind idiot dared to touch my people." Soon, more than 100 people completely surrounded me. Black Bear lit a cigarette and narrowed his eyes while staring at my back. "Kid, you certainly have some courage." However, the longer he looked at me, the more he felt that something was wrong. My clothing and my back seemed extremely familiar. Why does he look more and more like that person? When the green-haired delinquent saw that I had not responded, he impatiently cursed at me. "Kid, my big brother is speaking to you. Are you deaf?" At that moment, I slowly turned around. The instant Black Bear clearly saw my face, all the blood drained from his expression. His entire body became completely stiff. His mouth opened so widely that an egg could have fit inside it, while his jaw almost dropped to the ground. Only after a long silence did he finally manage to stammer, "B Brother Lou." Looking at my expressionless face, Black Bear felt as though everything in front of him had turned dark. His legs trembled uncontrollably, and cold sweat instantly soaked his back. He wanted nothing more than to slap the green-haired delinquent to death. Was this idiot completely blind? Out of everyone in the school, why did he have to provoke this terrifying person? Was he deliberately trying to get them all killed? Even ignoring the power of my family, which could crush all of them with a single finger, Black Bear himself was one of my underlings. Black Bear immediately forced a respectful smile. "Brother Lou, it was you. This is a misunderstanding. It is all a huge misunderstanding." His hands trembled as he pulled out a cigarette. Then he respectfully presented it to me while carefully observing my expression. He was terrified that the slightest sign of displeasure from me would result in his complete destruction. Most of the people standing behind Black Bear were third-year students. Every one of them recognized Lu Chen. The moment they saw me, they simultaneously lowered their heads and shouted, "Brother Lou." The green-haired delinquent and his two followers were completely dumbfounded. Even they were intelligent enough to finally understand who I was. In the entire 13th middle school, there was only one person with the surname Lu whom Black Bear would treat with such respect. It could only be the young master of the Lu family, B Brother Lou. The green-haired delinquent was covered in sweat. He stammered for a long time but could not form a complete sentence. When Black Bear saw him standing there uselessly, he stepped forward and slapped him across the face. "You even dared to provoke Brother Lou. If you want to die, do not drag me down with you." The slap instantly brought the green-haired delinquent back to his senses. He and his two followers dropped to their knees with a loud thud. They repeatedly smashed their foreheads against the ground and desperately begged for mercy. "Brother Lou, we were wrong. We were blind and failed to recognize someone as great as you. Please be generous and spare us. We genuinely did not know it was you. If we had known, we would never have dared to offend you, even if someone gave us 100 times more courage." All of their